My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 45 Lewis versus Daukaus card. I'm going to give you my picks. We'll talk about DraftKings. We'll talk about who is too expensive, who's not expensive enough, where there may be some value for your lineups, and who you should have in those lineups. If you don't know, we have a free DraftKings league. We do free contests every single week, and if you win those free contests, I send you $50, but you have to be a member of this channel. So click the join button under this video, become a member. It supports the channel. And if you win the free leagues, I send you $50, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. And the tragedy of the century was last week, the winner was a member. His membership expired, didn't renew it. He won, and I did not pay him his $50, but that could have covered 10 months worth of membership. Let's dig into this card. What we've got here, I'm going to go bottom to top. We're going to talk about every single fighter. We're going to talk about the fights and where we think there's some value. Let's take a look. We have Matt Sales versus Jordan Levitt right out of the gate. Listen, Matt Sales, he's a pretty well-rounded guy. He's a striker, and this is striker versus grappler. His opponent, Jordan Levitt, straight-up grappler. Has just some horrific striking, just a straight-up grappler. But Matt Sales is a striker, but he can grapple if he needs to. It is an interesting matchup because Matt Sales is a tough guy. He can win this fight by sticking and moving. He could potentially knock out Jordan Levitt with his power, but Jordan Levitt literally can only win if he grapples, no other way. And I know conventional wisdom is going to say, well, Matt Sales, $8,000, and he lost to Bryce Mitchell in his last fight by submission. He's going to lose this fight by submission as well. I just don't see that happening. Listen, Jordan Levitt is just so terrible on his feet. And yes, he could get this to the ground. He could work a submission, but his takedowns are not very good either. My pick is Matt Sales, but frankly, if you want to throw Jordan Levitt in your lineup at $8,200 because you think he might get a submission, that's not the worst thing in the world. And even in this loss against Puelas, where he was basically dominated start to finish because he couldn't do too much, he still scored 57. So I'm on the Matt Sales side. I think Matt Sales wins, but obviously Jordan Levitt is live for a knockout, for a submission. And if you think he's going to get that submission, $8,200 is not a bad price to pay. I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to give anybody a hard time. Then we've got Don'Tale Mayes versus Josh Parisian. Don'Tale Mayes, just a big heavyweight who just lumbers forward. He is not fast, but he's got power in his hands. His opponent, Josh Parisian, is a busier guy, a busier heavyweight with some decent volume. But let's take a look at Don'Tale Mayes. His last fight, he did win a decision, 67 points. He won a decision. He's normally a knockout guy. 67 points in a decision is not bad. He did have a takedown, but it's a lot of significant strikes, some cage control, and he scored somewhat well. $8,600. It's creeping up there. At that point, you're obviously going to want the knockout. And he's fighting Josh Parisian, who, let's take a look here. Josh Parisian, he's valued at $7,600. And he's a sort of come-forward guy. He's got a good volume. If you remember his fight, he fought my good personal friend, Parker Porter. They set the significant strike record. And let's take a look at that, 114 significant strikes. He did lose that fight, but he scored 48 in that loss because he put up 114 significant strikes. Listen, I think Josh Parisian wins this fight. I think Don'Tale Mayes is going to get exhausted. He's going to, I see Josh Parisian avoiding any of the early big power. Don'Tale will slow down, already be a step behind. And, I just don't see Don'Tale Mayes winning if he doesn't get a first-round knockout. Josh Parisian, $7,600. I think there's some value there because he could potentially get a stoppage. And if not, there'll be some crazy volume. So 48, you add 30 to that because I think he wins this fight where he didn't lose, where he lost the Parker one. So 40, 50, 60, 78 points, $7,600. I like Josh Parisian in this fight, and he's good value, and he may be in my lineup. If you want to chase a knockout with Don'Tale, you can, but he's not cheap, and that's a lot of money to spend hoping for a knockout. Then we've got the return of Raquel Pennington fighting Macy Chiasson. Raquel Pennington, I always use this analogy, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. the point of that is she's always right there. She's beating everybody she should beat, but she does lose to the upper echelon of fighter, but she's very, very good. Macy Chiasson is super long, a Muay Thai striker. And if she can keep her range and keep her distance, she's super successful. If you can get in on her and remove that distance, you can beat her up. And Raquel Pennington is amazing at just being boring and grinding and getting in there, holding you against the cage and beating you up from there. Let's take a look at what she scores and wins. She does score well, and it's the control time. 6 minutes of control time. She did have a takedown, 6 minutes of control time against Pani. She has some strikes in there. 75 points is not bad. That really is not bad. Obviously, you're spending $8,400, but 75 is not bad. She had another decision win against Marion Renault, 95 points. Again, a lot of control time. She had a takedown and she had a reversal. Takedowns are 5 points. Reversals score well as well. You know, I do think Raquel wins. I think it's going to be boring. But if we look at the numbers, even a boring Raquel puts up solid numbers. Look at this against Aldana. Same thing, a decision. Look at the control time numbers. Look at these. 6 minutes, 5.5, 5.5, 6 minutes. These are only 15-minute fights. So I like Raquel Pennington to win for sure. $8,400. I'll probably I'll probably grab that, honestly. And let's take a look at Macy. In Macy's decision wins, I mean, she's putting up solid numbers as well, but 3 takedowns. She's not going to get those against Pennington. She had a takedown against Renault as well. You know, she does put up points. I just don't see her winning, especially not by KO or TKO. And that's why I like to look at the decision and what they do in that. But remove 15 from here. I mean, 10 minutes of control time. That is just not what's going to – Macy is not going to get that control time or those takedowns in this fight. So I like Raquel Pennington and probably not a bad play. Then we've got Charles Jourdain versus Andre Ewell. Charles Jourdain, nickname Air Jourdain. Hey, but he does fly through the air with flying knees. He does wild spinning attacks. He's a ton of fun, super active. Lots of output, a fun striker. And he does have a pretty good chin. Andre Ewell, he's absolutely tremendous for this weight class. He's a good boxer. He does not use his range well. So anybody talking about, oh, he's got a 6-inch reach advantage, you're just reading stats, because show me a fight that Andre Ewell was in where he kept somebody at the end of his jab, where he used his reach to his advantage. He doesn't do it. It's not a skill set that a lot of people can use well, and he doesn't. So the size difference, the height difference doesn't matter here. What does matter is Andre Ewell, yes, he's talented. Yes, he's athletic. He's a good boxer, but he's so big for this weight class that he has cardio issues. I like Charles Jourdain to win this fight. I do like the under 2.5 rounds. Andre Ewell could stop Charles Jourdain, but more than likely, I see Charles Jourdain coming forward, staying busy, Andre Ewell getting exhausted, and then Charles Jourdain getting some sort of stoppage here. So I like under 2.5 rounds. And let's take a look at what he scores. Obviously, he was submitted in the Erosa fight, but I think he was winning that fight. Some of you were arguing that it was even going into the third. I thought he was winning that fight. He put up 48 points. But look at this, KO, TKO against Rojo. This is the exact type of fight that I'm expecting here. This is the exact type of fight. Because that fight against Marcelo Rojo was a war. It went to the third round. They absolutely went at it, and Charles Jourdain just literally said to his corner, I'm going to stop him in this round. Came out in the third and stopped him. And he put up 117 points. That is the exact type of fight that I'm expecting here. So I like him, 8,900. It's even a little bit of a discount off of the Rojo fight. And we'll take a quick look at Ewell, see what kind of numbers he puts up. Obviously, he's coming off those 2 losses in a row. He was stopped by Julio Arce. He beat Chris Gutierrez, which, that's not saying a ton, unfortunately. But he was a big underdog in that fight. But 81 with a decision against Rivera, 63 decision against Martinez. So he's not scoring a ton in these fights. Obviously, look at the amount of strikes he had against Rivera. I don't see that happening with Jourdain. So Andre Ewell, you want to do a flyer at 7,300, go for it. I'm just not feeling it. I like Jourdain in that matchup. Then we have one of the most interesting fights on this card. We have Sijara Eubanks and she's fighting Melissa Gatto. Sijara Eubanks, this will be her second fight at 125 pounds. The knock on her has been her cardio. But her last fight, she didn't seem to have those cardio issues, but she did fight Elise Reed in a UFC debut. I mean, what does that tell you, right? But Sijara Eubanks is big, strong, and a nasty grappler. And moving at 125, she's even bigger, even stronger, and her grappling remains nasty. She's basically a 500 fighter. This last fight sort of turned those tides a little bit because obviously she added a win there. But Pani Kanziad, she lost that decision 46. She lost the decision to Ketlin, who is amazing, 29. She beat Avila with 100 points. And again, look at this control time, 10 minutes with 3 takedowns. That's the only way she will be worth $8,700. A ton of control time. And that is possible, but I'm on the other side of this. I like Melissa Gatto. She's only got one fight in the UFC, so we're not going to have a ton to take from this. But Melissa Gatto is also a very good grappler and also huge, big, strong. She was suspended for 3 years because of steroids. She's still huge, still jacked, and has nasty jiu-jitsu herself. She doesn't have the same jiu-jitsu as Eubanks. She's not the bully that Eubanks is in fights, but I think she's more than capable. She's got better stand-up. I think she's more than capable to win this fight. I love her at $7,500. Obviously, this was a TKO here in the second round, but I do think Sijara will get exhausted trying to bully an equally strong Melissa Gatto, and this is Melissa Gatto's fight. She's a huge underdog here. DraftKings was a little more conservative than some of the sports books, but I like Gatto here. I will likely have her in my lineup. Then we've got Justin Tafa versus Harry Hunsucker. Justin Tafa, the dude's 4-3. He only has 7 professional fights. And the easiest way to describe him is a watered-down Tai Tuivasa. He's a good boxer with a great chin, and he uses low kicks. He uses low kicks well in his fights. He got pieced up by Jared Vanderaa in his last fight, and that was a bad look because Jared Vanderaa is a grappler that just outstruck and dominated Justin Tafa with the striking. But let's take a look. I mean, in his only path to scoring any real points and being worth $9,400 is a KO. And obviously, you know, a KO in the first round will score you decent. And he probably can. Harry Hunsucker, they don't have his Jared Vanderaa fight in here, but he fought Jared Vanderaa, lost a grappling match. Tai Tuivasa knocked him out early. And I think a lot of people, I mean, Tai Tuivasa is a minus 350 favorite. I think a lot of people think Justin Tafa is going to do to Harry Hunsucker what Tai Tuivasa did, which is just knock him out and knock him out early. I think he's a lot more live than people are giving credit for, but he does just rush forward with strikes. We've obviously seen him get knocked out by a big, strong striker with leg kicks a couple months ago, and Justin could do the same. So listen, I'm probably not going to touch either one of these guys. If Justin Tafa was like not almost 500 and had more than 7 fights, I'd have a little more faith in him. But Harry Hunsucker is big, is strong, does come forward, throw heavy. It's not ridiculous that Harry Hunsucker wins this fight. It's not ridiculous that happens. I'm just not going to. Man, Justin Tafa, $9,400. He's so expensive. So expensive. If that dude was 89, I would do it. 94, there's no way. Then we got Hani Barcelos versus UFC newcomer Victor Henry. Hani Barcelos is a nasty fighter. Nasty fighter. He is good everywhere. He has very good striking. He's got great offensive wrestling, great defensive wrestling. They don't have the stats here, but he defended 6 takedowns against Timur Valiev in this fight. And Timur Valiev is a very good wrestler. Hani Barcelos, nasty at jiu-jitsu. He is literally good everywhere. His opponent, Victor Henry, making his UFC debut, a very good striker who uses opportunities well. If there's an opening, he will take it. Very, very good, diverse striker who's constantly coming forward. He's not going to be the wrestler that Barcelos is. He's not going to be the grappler that Barcelos is. Barcelos, $9,300. He's probably worth that money. But I would not be surprised if Victor Henry, these are the types of UFC debuts. The guy has 20 fights or something. These are the types of UFC debuts that just come in here and shock the world. Let's look at Chris Curtis in his last 2 fights. Victor Henry's flirting with that same dynamic. But Honey Barcelos is legit. Let's look at this win against Taha. 96 points. He had 2 takedowns, some control time, and a ton of strikes. Another decision against the non-Khabib Nurmagomedov. 64 points. He had his own takedowns there, even though all the Nurmagomedovs are solid wrestlers. 4 minutes of control time. He had a TKO against Hao Chin. He submitted Gutierrez. He knocked out Halba. I mean, he's the real deal. He puts up real numbers. You know, $9,300 is probably worth it. I will probably spend that. Victor Henry does make me nervous because he has that sort of Chris Curtis vibe about him where ton of experience, may not be overwhelmed by the moment and could just put his hands together. And this loss against Valiev, he had 2 knockdowns, defended every single takedown, and the strike count was pretty much even. A lot of people think he won that fight. Timur Valiev did do what he needed to do in that last round to get it done, but that was a good fight. You got to love Hani Barcelos, and I do like him in this matchup. Then we have an interesting fight. We got Gerald Meerschaert at $9,000. He's fighting Dustin Stoltzfus. Gerald Meerschaert has no hands whatsoever. The knock on him has always been that his chin sucks. Although in this last fight against Muradov, he got cracked, didn't quite go out. So his chin, does it suck as bad as everybody says? I don't know. Is it a little... It's not going to rejuvenate itself. It's not a lizard tail. You cut it off and it grows back. But his chin held up in the last fight. He was rocked, but he didn't go down. And he's fighting Dustin Stoltzfus, who is also a good grappler. He's got a BJJ black belt, but big, heavy hands. Meerschaert is $9,000 because Dustin Stoltzfus hasn't won in the UFC yet, and people think Meerschaert's going to take him down and submit him. But Dustin Stoltzfus is very live for a knockout. So if you're spending $9,000 on Meerschaert, that's because you think you will get the Meerschaert in his last 2 fights. You'll get 101 points, 102 points because of the takedowns, because of the submissions. That's what you think you're going to get. But if you get the one that Heinisch knocked out, 1 point, Shimaev knocked out, 0 points, that Anders decisioned, Eric Anders decisioned Meerschaert, the same Eric Anders who we just watched almost lose his arm in his last fight. $9,000 is a lot of money to spend. Obviously, if he gets a submission, that dude is worth it. But let's take a look. We've got Dustin Stoltzfus. Obviously, Rodolfo Vieira smoked him, but Rodolfo Vieira is one of the best on the planet. And I think this is what people are looking at. They're looking at Rodolfo Rivera, nasty grappler. He beat him. Meerschaert, nasty grappler. He beat him. It is different grappling, though. Rivera's picking people up over his head, dumping them, then submitting them. Meerschaert is almost getting knocked out cold, stumbling around, getting it on the ground, and then submitting people. So I don't know if I'm going to spend the $9,000. You want to do $7,200 on Dustin because you think he can knock out Meerschaert, who's been knocked out plenty of times? Go for it. I do think Meerschaert wins this fight, and I'll decide later if he's worth $9,000 or not. But there's so many questions going into that fight. Then we've got Cub Swanson taking on Darren Elkins. This is an interesting one. I think this fight might make or break a lot of people's lineups. Cub Swanson, straight up legend. He's primarily a striker, has great foot movement, good pressure, good with his hands and his feet. But the dude has been around for 2,000 years. I mean, let's scroll back all the way to 2016, and he was fighting long before then. And he's good everywhere. You can't have that experience. You can't fight for titles. You can't do all of that and not be good everywhere. He is absolutely good everywhere, but he's starting to fade. He's 2 wins and 1, 2. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4 losses, strung together 2 wins, and then Chikadze smoked him, but that was expected. I mean, but let's take a look. He did beat Daniel Pineda, which a lot of people were not expecting, 117 points. He smoked Gracie in that fight, but, he's a very good striker. He was able to keep the distance and avoid any of that ground game. But he's not, he is good everywhere. But let's look at these takedowns. He's got 1 offensive takedown. He can defend some takedowns. I think his takedown defense, let's see, do I have it here? I don't have it listed here, but it's a good percentage. I do like Darren Elkins to win this fight. In order for Cub Swanson to win this fight, he's going to have to stick and move, keep the distance, and make Darren Elkins pay for every single entry. Hit him hard and hit him often when Darren Elkins tries to come inside the pocket. But let's take a look at Darren Elkins and see what kind of numbers he puts up. 122 against Minner, 124 against Gagori. He was riding his own 4-fight skin. It looked like his career was over. But even then, Nate the Train, he put up 60 points in that fight. The guy, Volkanovski, Lamas, who, Ricardo Lamas fell off a little bit, but another nasty fighter. And if we go back even farther, he beat Johnson. He beat Bermudez. He beat Bektik. Mirsad Bektik is legit. And he puts up numbers because look at the takedowns. 5, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 7, 1. Darren Elkins, I trust him to grind. I trust him to come in here, not dance with Cub. Darren Elkins needs a dirty, gross fight. And I think he will get that. He can sucker Cub into that. I think he takes Cub down, beats him up, wears him out, wins $7,400. I do like Darren Elkins in my lineup. Let's take a look at Gamrot and Fajeda. Macias Gamrot versus Diego Fajeda. Macias Gamrot is legit. This guy will be a future champion. I believe in him. He's got nasty wrestling, pretty good hands, and pretty good jiu-jitsu. Look at what he did to Jeremy Stevens. Obviously, 97 points, took him down, beat him up. Holtzman knocked him out. He knocked out the come-forward, very fast, good hand striker in Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. Put up 100 points there. And he did lose to Kutaladze. And a lot of people are saying he quit in that fight. It showed that he's a quitter. I'm not buying it. I'll tell you right now, $8,500. This is the best spot on DraftKings. Diego Fajeda, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He does have very good hands as of late, and he is great at jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't have a lot of takedowns. He's not great. His takedown accuracy is only 24 points. He's not going to submit Gamrot while he's on his back, so he's going to have to take Gamrot down, which is not going to happen. He's going to have to defend takedowns if he thinks he's a better striker, which is not going to happen. I think Gamrot blows through him. I just do not see Diego Fajeda winning. It is a fist fight. Anything can happen. I just don't see it here. I'm not even going to explore putting Diego in my lineup, honestly. I'm going Gamrot all the way, $8,500. I'm just so thankful he's not $9,500. Let's take a look at Ricky Simone, not Simon, Simone, and he is fighting Rafael Assunção. Ricky Simone, $9,200. He is very expensive, and that's because of this Colin here. 6 takedowns, 7 takedowns, 7 takedowns. Even in this loss against Rob Font, 6 takedowns. The guy puts up numbers because of those takedowns. $9,200, he's probably worth it. He's probably worth it. But I will say that Rafael Assunção, let's scroll through this list. Let's look at some of the people he beat. Munoz, Caraway back in the day, but he beat Aljamain Sterling. He beat Marlon Moraes. He beat Rob Font. He beat Lopez. Like, look at the people he's beaten. He's legit. Okay, he lost to Cody Garbrandt. Fine. He lost to Corey Sandhagen. Fine. He lost to Marlon Moraes in a rematch. Fine. All of these guys are ranked in the world. This would have aged a little better if Cody Garbrandt won last week, but you get the point. Rafael Assunção started his career as a nasty grappler. He developed his hands, and he's a very, very well-rounded guy. He's very good. He could put up a legitimate fight. He can get his own takedowns. 4 against Sandhagen. 4. 2 against Rob Font. 2 against Caraway. 3 against Munoz. I mean, he can put up his own takedowns and his own numbers, and he can win this fight. Do I think he will? No. Do I think that these prices are a little wide? Yes. I think if Rafael Assunção wins, I don't think it's the most shocking thing that happened. They're valuing Ricky Simone like he's Gamrot. They're valuing him like he didn't lose to Rob Font, like he didn't get knocked out by Uriah Faber. So yes, he's active, he's busy, he can get 1 million takedowns, which honestly he might. He'll probably end up being worth $9,200. But I just want to be clear, this is not, there's some risk here because Rafael Assunção is the real deal and he's not getting enough credit. Then we have the feature fight of the evening. We have Amanda Lemos versus Angela Hill. Amanda Lemos is a killer. She's giant for the weight class and has power in her hands. Knockout. Even in this decision against Mizuki, she had a knockdown and 2 takedowns and put up 91 points. Amanda Lemos is worth $9,500. Absolutely. Now, Angela Hill is tough. She's scrappy. But Angela Hill, look, she beats who she's supposed to, Ashley Yoder, and she loses to everybody ranked in the world. Torres, Watersome, Claudia Gajea. Look at these names. All right, she beat Luke Boonmi, who's tiny. Fine. Carnelosi, not great. Cyphers, not great. Lost to Jonan. Lost to Marcos. Beat Esquibel. She's beating everybody outside of the top 10, losing to everybody inside of the top 10. I like Lemos to dominate here. But Angela Hill is tough. Lemos is big and gets tired. Angela Hill could steal around late. But even in her wins, she doesn't put up a ton of points. Granted, she's only $6,700 here. But imagine spending $9,400 to get 77 against Ashley Yoder. So she is tough. She does put up in her losses because she's not really getting knocked out. So she does put up a fight, 40 points, 60 points in a loss, 52 in a loss, 48 in a loss. $6,700 if you have, that's all you have left and you love the rest of your lineup, you're not going to get a zero out of her. You'll put up some points, but I like Lemos. I think Lemos dominates, and this may be one of the first people to just absolutely level Angela Hill. Then we got the co-main event. We have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he is fighting Belal Muhammad. Let's take a look. This is a tough one, man. $9,100 is a lot of money, and I love Stephen Thompson. And you know what? Versus Neal, worth it. Versus Luque, worth it. Versus Pettis, honestly, he was knocked out cold, but who saw that coming, right? Not a lot of people saw that coming. It's easy to just say, oh, so-and-so said it, but, you break that fight down, you look at it objectively. Wonderboy losing that fight was a bit surprising. But the thing is, this Burns loss, here's my issue. He scored 16 points in a decision loss. 16. Because he was taken down and dominated easily. And if we take a look at Belal Muhammad, no takedowns in his fight against Maia, because why the hell would you take down Damian Maia? No takedowns in his fight against Edwards, because he was poked in the eye and he almost went blind. But one takedown against Lima, but he didn't need it. 129 significant strikes. 129 significant strikes. He didn't even need that takedown. But if we scroll down, 2 takedowns against Lyman Good, 2 takedowns against Sato, 2 takedowns against Melender, 3 takedowns against Rincourt, 4 takedowns against Jordan Main. He is a wrestler, grappler. He can take you down, beat you up, go from there, and he puts up a ton of points while doing it. If the last fight was any indication of Stephen Thompson and what he's like now, Belal Muhammad should blow through him. And at $7,100, he's worth it because he does have volume in his strikes. He's not getting finished in his losses. And if he's going to put up some takedowns, he can score a good amount of points. I love Wonderboy, but if I'm looking at his last fight, this is a bad matchup. Main event of the evening, we have Chris Daukaus versus Derek Lewis, 2 heavyweight strikers. The breakdown on every single Derek Lewis is exactly the same. His opponent is better than him. His opponent is more technical than him, but he has enough power that he can knock anybody out at any moment. And that's what we have here. Chris Daukaus, the better fighter, should win this fight. The more talented, literally better everywhere, except raw power. Daukaus puts up insane numbers because every single fight in the UFC is a knockout. Let's look at Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis puts up shit for numbers. Shit for numbers. He lost to Gane 7 points. The dude threw 16 punches in 3 rounds. What a joke. What a joke. Curtis Blades, 83 points. And that's with a second round knockout because he did literally nothing. And then bang, 1 punch. Olenek, similar story. Does basically nothing, 1 punch. Look at these decision wins. 40 points, 50 points. He's just not worth it. He's $7,900. He's the cheaper fighter. If you think he's going to knock out Chris Daukaus, then spend the money. Spend it. I'm not. I can't put $7,900 in my lineup because in a loss, he scores nothing. He scores nothing in his losses. So the only chance to get a return is a knockout. And yes, it's very possible, but Chris Daukaus is just better everywhere except raw power. He knows that. I'm sure he's going to avoid the power. He may even come out with a wrestle game plan. I doubt that. But I think it's some stick and move. He'll touch him up. We just watched Derek Lewis get broken and quit against Gane. I just can't spend $7,900 on Derek Lewis. Chris Daukaus will be in my lineup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that crap. But join our free DraftKings league. If you're a member of this channel and you win that league, I'll send you $50. It's that easy. See you guys on Saturday.